A recent article by Business Insider said that a number of millennials and Gen Z are relying on old retirement wisdom that worked for their parents and grandparents but won't be enough for them. So the question becomes, how do we retire? What is enough? And how much money do we actually need in order to retire? In the book Money Mastered the Game, where Tony Robbins interviewed 50 of the brightest minds in the world of finance, we might actually get a good answer. You see, there are 3 levels of retirement, or financial freedom. First is financial security. This is when you are able to cover all of your living expenses without ever having to work again. Think about how much money you need every month right now to cover your basic living expenses. You got it? This number is important because later in this video we're going to calculate how to achieve this first level of freedom. But for the sake of this video, let's say that your basic living expenses cost you around $40,000 per year. Next is financial freedom. This is when your current lifestyle is fully paid for, not just living expenses. This includes any hobbies, vacations, or fun experiences that you normally have. For this video, let's say that this number is $65,000 per year. And lastly, is complete financial freedom. This is about having your lifestyle fully paid for and then some. This will allow you not only to support your lifestyle, but continue growing your wealth, and as a result, your lifestyle. Let's say that this number is $90,000 per year. Now that we have these numbers, let's move on to how to achieve these financial goals. Here is where we enter the accumulation phase. Imagine your financial journey as climbing a big snow mountain. You will have to do the work and put lots of effort into climbing this mountain, but once you reach the top, your work is done, and now you can slide and enjoy your financial freedom. What we have to do in order to get there is figure out how high the top of the mountain is. This is our accumulation goal, the amount of money we need for us to be financially free the rest of our lives. In the book, Tony has a great formula to calculate how much money you need to accumulate in order for you to retire and not have to worry about running out of money. First, let's get started with financial security. To have our living expenses paid for virtually as long as we live, you take your monthly living expenses that you thought of earlier, multiply them by 12, so you get your yearly expenses, then you multiply this number by 20. Using our previous example, we had a living cost of $40,000 per year. This means that if we multiply $40,000 times 20, we get our accumulation target. To achieve financial security, we have a target of $800,000. For financial freedom, we have our cost of $65,000 per year. Multiplied by 20, we get $1.3 million as our target for financial freedom. And for our complete financial freedom, we multiply our $90,000 per year by 20, and we get our target of $1.8 million. But okay, hold on. We probably want to be retired more than 20 years if we can, and we have to take into account inflation. This target number is only the first part of the equation. In the accumulation phase, we don't have to just use our money to get to our target. If we start investing, we don't have to save 20 years of life expenses, but instead, we can invest our way there. Once you reach your target, you have a choice to make. Continue working or go into the next phase. Tony says to stay at the top for as long as you can. In the world of investing, waiting can actually create big results. But once you are ready and you decide to retire, we go into our decumulation phase. This is where you enjoy the benefits of your investments and begin withdrawing from your portfolio. Tony says it can be a good idea to be more aggressive in your investments in the accumulation phase and more conservative in your decumulation phase. This can accelerate your way to wealth and create more stability on the way down. So, let's say that you reached your financial freedom goal and you've accumulated $1,300,000 in your portfolio. You decide to put your investments in a more conservative strategy, so you have a smaller but stable return of 7% yearly. This means that your investment portfolio will provide a $91,000 return for the year. So you take your $65,000 to pay for your lifestyle, and the rest of the $26,000 stay in your portfolio to continue growing your wealth so your future returns can be adjusted for inflation. Notice that this strategy only uses the returns that your money produces and not the principal. This is why Tony says that this will last the rest of your life. You will not spend any of your $1.3 million, only the interest or returns that this money produces. We want to keep the principal intact so it can continue to produce income forever. Now the next question is, isn't investing risky? And the answer is yes. There are risks involved while investing. There are market crashes and there are recessions. But there are also bull markets and economic growth. The goal is to allocate our assets where our money can thrive in any economic weather. Fortunately for us, this guy, Ray Dalio, an investor who manages the largest hedge fund in the world and successfully navigated all of the recent recessions, shows us exactly how to allocate our investments and make money in any economic weather. In order to allocate our investments to withstand any economic condition, we must understand the 4 different economic climates. These 4 climates determine the changes in asset values, inflation and deflation, and growth and decline. In order to create a virtually risk-free portfolio, we must understand 2 things: what assets do well in each economic climate and how to allocate them. When there's economic growth, stocks, corporate bonds, gold, and commodities tend to go up in value. When there's inflation growth, in other words, the value of the dollar decreases, gold, Treasury inflation-protected securities, or TIPS, and other commodities help fight the devaluation of the dollar. Now, when the economy declines, government bonds like Treasury bills tend to increase in value. And when there's deflation, in other words, the value of the dollar increases, things like stocks, Treasury bills, and, well, cash tend to do well in this economic climate. In order to make this asset allocation effective in giving you returns as well as protecting you from losses, Dalio explains that each quadrant must have equal levels of risk, since in each category only one economic environment can exist at a time. There cannot be growth and decline at the same time, or inflation and deflation. This means that by allocating the same level of risk to each category, we're not exposed to any particular environment. Now notice how I didn't say equal parts money in each category. This is because not all assets are created equal. A 50-50 portfolio made with 50% stocks and 50% bonds looks like this in terms of money, but looks like this in terms of risk. Dalio explains that equities like stocks are 3 times more volatile than other asset classes. So in this strategy, we don't allocate just money, we allocate risk. Lucky for us, Dalio gave us this exact asset allocation strategy to create growth and virtually eliminate risk. And we call this the all-weather portfolio. Again, Ray Dalio is someone who didn't just protect his money and investors' money during market crashes and recessions, but dominated those times of bad economic weather to become the largest hedge fund manager in the world. And this is how he allocates his assets. To the shock of many people, Dalio's all-weather portfolio only has 30% of the money invested in equities, like stocks, since they are the most volatile. 40% goes to long-term bonds since they are the most stable, and 15% of the money goes into intermediate-term bonds. He has another 7.5% in gold and another 7.5% in commodities to help combat inflation. Backtesting the all-weather portfolio reveals that it does live up to its name. This strategy has produced a return of around 10% per year and made money more than 85% of the time in the last 30 years. And the average loss was just under 2% in big market crashes, not 40 or 50 like in many other portfolios. And this way, we don't have to predict the market in order to grow our wealth and achieve financial freedom. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this book. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and check out our digital library of financial book summaries here on YouTube. It's all free. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.